So, generative AI is here. And let's be clear, for agile teams, this isn't just another tool to add to your toolbox. It's a fundamental force multiplier. It's truly changing how we think, how we create, and ultimately, how we deliver value.
I mean, just stop and think about the scale of this shift for a second. For the first time ever, raw intelligence is basically becoming a utility, like electricity. It's accessible to everyone, and that is fundamentally changing the entire landscape of creative and intellectual work.
So how do we even wrap our heads around something this big? Well, let me give you a simple way to think about it. Imagine you have Albert Einstein living in your basement. This Einstein has read everything ever written, can become an expert on any topic you want, and is ready to work with you 24/7. The only real limit? It's your ability to ask the right questions.
All right, so here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll look at the AI-Augmented Sprint. Then, we'll dive into the real quantifiable data. After that, we'll talk about the crucial rules of engagement. And finally, we'll see how this all amplifies the core values of Agile itself.
Okay, so what does this actually look like in the real world? Let's walk through an AI-augmented sprint, phase by phase. We're going to see how it takes teams from just small, incremental efficiencies to truly transformative innovation. Okay, first up, discovery. This is where it all starts, right? Figuring out what problem we should even be solving. And traditionally, this has been a super labor-intensive manual process. Now, on one hand, AI can give you those nice incremental efficiencies, summarizing a long report or transcribing an interview. And that's helpful, for sure. But here's where things get really exciting. The transformative part is when AI does something no human team possibly could. Synthesizing thousands of support tickets, app reviews, and social media posts to find those hidden patterns, those latent needs that your customers can't even put into words yet.
All right, next up, the design phase. This is where AI is just dramatically shrinking the time it takes to get from a vague idea to something a user can actually touch and interact with.
And again, you have this simple efficiency play, like generating an icon or some placeholder text. Useful, yeah, but not a revolution. The transformation, though, that's when you can describe an entire user flow in plain English, like create an onboarding flow for a mobile banking app and get back a multi-screen interactive prototype in minutes. That completely changes the economics of experimentation.
Okay, let's talk development. For engineers, Gen AI has gone from being a simple little syntax helper to what a lot of people are calling a cybernetic teammate. Seriously.
The old way was just basic auto-completion for a variable name. Handy, but that's it. But today's tools, things like GitHub Copilot, they function as a true partner. A developer writes a comment describing the logic they need, and boom, the AI generates the entire function, the documentation, and even the tests to check it. This frees up our brilliant engineers to focus on the big picture, on architecture and complex problem solving.
And look, this isn't just a vibe or a feeling. It is measurable. A huge McKinsey study found that developers using these tools can get stuff done up to twice as fast. Twice. That's just a wild productivity gain.
Okay, last phase, quality assurance. Gen AI is totally flipping the script on QA, shifting it from this reactive, end-of-the-line bug hunt to a proactive, intelligent engineering discipline.
Sure, the easy win is just running your existing tests a little faster. That's the incremental efficiency. But the real revolution? It's having the AI look at your user stories and generate comprehensive test cases you might have completely missed. And even better, it can create self-healing test scripts that don't break every single time a developer changes a button's name. That cuts down on so much tedious maintenance work. So we've seen what's possible in theory. But what about the hard data? Let's look at the quantifiable impact this is having in the real world right now. What I find really interesting here is the balance. A 2024 Forrester survey shows that, companies are already seeing a positive ROI, but look at how it's split. It's almost 50-50 between top-line benefits, like growing revenue, and bottom-line benefits, like saving money.
And we can see this in some really specific examples. Take the financial services firm Allpay. They used GitHub Copilot and increased their production delivery volume by 25%. Or Bancolombia, who boosted their code generation by 30%. These are not small numbers. These are significant, measurable wins. Okay,
The power is obviously immense, but you know what they say, with great power comes the need for some serious ground rules. We need a way to think about this so we're using AI as a tool, not a crutch that lets our brains turn off. Which brings me to what I think is the single most important question you can ask. When should you not use AI? Seriously, knowing when to put the tool down is the secret to using it well. Okay, so here's the key idea you have to get. It's all about understanding that there are two fundamentally different types of problems. You've got deterministic problems where there's one and only one right answer. 2 + 2 is always 4. Then you have probabilistic problems where there are lots of plausible good answers, things like brainstorming new features or summarizing customer feedback. And I love this analogy because it just clicks. Using a probabilistic tool like an LLM for a deterministic task is like asking a brilliant novelist to file your taxes. You're going to get back this document that's beautifully written, sounds super confident, but the numbers, they're probably going to be wrong. LLMs are built to sound plausible, not to be mathematically precise. So here is your takeaway, a simple framework. Before you reach for an LLM, just run through these 4 questions in your head. Does this task have one objectively correct answer? Does the output have to be identical every time? Can the result be mathematically proven? If you answered yes to any of these, you should probably reach for a deterministic tool like a calculator or a database first, not an LLM. All right, let's bring this all back home, because this whole AI thing, it isn't about throwing out the Agile Manifesto. It's about using AI to put those values on steroids. I mean, think about it. Responding to change over following a plan becomes radically easier when you can prototype a new direction in minutes, not weeks. Customer collaboration gets way deeper when you can synthesize thousands of pieces of feedback almost instantly. And that really brings us to the absolute core of it all. AI is a lever. It amplifies the skill of the person holding it. It doesn't create skill out of thin air. It's not here to replace individuals and interactions. It's here to give those individuals superpowers. For a skilled, knowledgeable Agile practitioner, it's an incredible tool, but it can't create expertise where there is none. So, look, the technology is here. It's not coming, it's here. The best way to think about it is as your new colleague, a brilliant, sometimes a little weird, but unbelievably powerful partner. So the question for all of us, for every Agile team out there, isn't if you'll work with it anymore. The question is, how are you going to choose to work with it to build amazing things faster than ever before?